And we've actually turned down thousands of units. I think I stopped counting around 4,000 units. One of the reasons we were able to grow is we had that hard to get reputation. And so people heard what we were doing. We communicated well. We prioritized relationships. We owned all the problems that we had. We made sure that we always made the client whole first. Like we had great network, great relationships in the community, and we focused more about others winning before we won.
Welcome to Unfiltered, the official podcast of propertymanagement.com. I'm your host, Dylan Scroggins, joined by Virginia legend, Mr. Stephen Glover, CEO, owner, Peak Property Management. Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I say Virginia legend because I feel like on LinkedIn, man, I'm in your algorithm or you're in mine, one of the two. But man, I feel like I've been following you for a couple of years. So good to finally chat live here.
Good, man. I'm happy to connect. It was great seeing you at Burker Owner as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I got to tell the quick story of how we kind of first met. I think you were posting a lot about hiring and recruiting, and I sent you one of my favorite books, and you were very appreciative of it, but you couldn't read my handwriting.
Yeah.
Which was a total miss on my part. So it's a good professional development for me to maybe take a second look at my Alabama cursive.
Yeah, it was great. I was like, man, this is sweet. Someone just sent me this book, and I read the card, and I could read the majority of the card, but it was like signed. It was like an autograph. And then I was like, I don't know who sent it, but I appreciate it.
It's so funny because you told me that on the floor of the Superdome. And I could hear you, but it was like so loud. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so nice of you to say that. And I was like, what an idiot at the same time. Not you an idiot. I'm talking about me, of course.
Yeah, all good.
Well, cool, man. Well, just like a quick little housekeeping for those who aren't on LinkedIn or have never met you, tell us just like a quick snapshot of Peak Property Management, door count, breakdown, size of team, things like that, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, cool. So Steve Glover, owner, CEO, principal broker of Peak Property Management, located in Richmond, Virginia. We manage just under 1,500 rental units. We do single family and some small multifamily as well. We've been in business since 2018. We really started taking clients in 2019. When I entered the industry in 2018, I didn't even know the industry existed. I was not a real estate guy. So I used the year 2018 to understand property management and real estate investing. 19, felt comfortable taking on clients, started building the business then, relied heavily on a network and other great people in the industry to learn a lot from. And then here we are, 2026, just under 1,500 units, and have about 45 people on our team, in-house maintenance crew, stuff like that. Happy with how we're performing and just excited for where we're headed.
You said not a real estate guy. What type of guy were you? What industry did you come in before you got into property management?
Largely fitness. I spent years hanging out with special operations guys and doing athletic and corporate team building across the nation with them. And then I was running fitness companies as well. And so one of the members of the fitness company was a real estate investor, and he did not trust another property manager in our area to manage his assets. And he had seen what I'd done in other small businesses, said, hey man, with your work ethic, your attitude, your relationship, like how you prioritize relationships, we think you do really well in this industry. And I was like, I have no idea what the industry is or what you're talking about, but I was good friends with him, had known him for 10 years, wanted to go into business with him. And so I gave it a shot and learned property management from there.
Did you come in as a W-2 like ops leader, or did you come in as a co-owner?
So he offered me a partnership, which I had 4 or 5 opportunities at the time. And he was the only one to say, I want you to be a partner. And so he said something with his MBA. He's a super genius, doing some really cool stuff, former investment banker, stuff like that. He was like, I'll give you 2% phantom equity. All I heard was equity. I didn't have any documents in place or anything until about 2020, after I'd put in a couple of years, about 100-hour weeks and really started growing the business. I was like, wait, we probably should have some documentation in place. So we made it official, got some documentation in place. And then over the years, I slowly bought him down. He was always more of a silent partner, but just there to have my back if I needed him, but bought him down. I'm a 100% owner now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when it comes to like the growth, we kind of went from like, hey, I'm not a real estate guy to yada, 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 Seinfeld reference. Now I'm at 1,500 doors. Walk us through, let's just say before 2020.
Yeah.
Did you start like with a lot of his doors? I know you had like a really good network there, but like, what was that first chunk?
We probably had about 10 properties under management. So yeah, I didn't come into a whole lot. Maybe about 30 units total. Some of those were like duplexes, stuff like that. It was somewhere in between 20 and 30 units total, but it was largely friends and family. There were no actual third-party clients. So we didn't understand anything about systems, process, communication, largely like legal side of things. So I had to study the industry and really learn how to care for a third party's asset. And so that was all of 2018. And so we didn't really start taking clients from there. Our first client was maybe late 2018, early 2019. By 2020, early 2020, we had about 300 units under management, and I had maybe 6 or 7 people hired on our team.
So that's the jump right there, 0 to 300 or 30 to 300, lay a foundation, and then it seems like you've just been off to the races. I mean, my math is, about as good as my handwriting, but it seems like you're tracking like 30% growth year over year, give or take.
Yeah, it's been good, and we've actually turned down thousands of units. I think I stopped counting around 4,000 units. One of the reasons we were able to grow is we had that hard to get reputation. And so people heard what we were doing. We communicated well. We prioritized relationships. We owned all the problems that we had. We made sure that we always made the client whole first. Like we had great network, great relationships in the community, and we focused more about others winning before we won. And I think that meant a lot to people. And so we had this, we knew we only would be able to do that if we were very selective about the assets and relationships that we took under management. And so we were very careful about what we brought on. And in doing so, I would have people come to us and say, I heard what you're doing. I see the properties that you manage and the people that you work for. I would love it if you would see if you're interested in managing my assets. It was a few years into it, I stopped counting around 4,000 units that we had turned down to get closer. We were probably around 1,000 units at that point. So we were turning down 4 times the amount of units that we were picking up. And that really helped our reputation. We scaled at our own. We never overrode, growth never overrode the service level of service we could provide. And we were always able to stick to our core values. We had a happy team, low turnover team, great systems, great processes that never got overrun by our growth. And we were able to maintain our reputation that way.
Walk me through the hard to get reputation, because I got a feeling, if someone's listening to this in their car, they might have swerved off the road that you've turned down 4,000 units. I see your point of like, hey, those are units that I don't lose sleep over, right? It's not about the number, it's about the owners and the issues that come with it. But how intentional was that hard to get reputation? Like, was that an original business plan? Was that coming from your fitness days, that mentality? Because you're the first person I've ever heard to turn away that much and be as selective that early.
Yeah, I think one, it was in all my research in 2018, I kind of read the writing on the wall that the way property management companies have a bad reputation is when they grow very quickly and they're not responsive and they don't communicate well. And so part of it was just trying to control that. But also a lot of it was my background. In the fitness industry, where the membership that of the company I was running was $400 something a month. Before that and during that period, I was working with special operations elite teams, like members of special operations at the highest level of the military that you can serve. My business partners were very high level. Like one of them was a residential general contractor who had never done any marketing, but was doing $300,000 kitchen renovations. Locally, just stayed in town. Everyone wanted him. He did not want everyone. And so we knew that when we started this company, we wanted a product that everyone wanted, but not everyone could have. And so we had to change a little bit as we scaled, right? Our thoughts on that, we still are very selective about what we take on. But that is how we maintained our reputation and relationships over the years through fast growth, was turning down so many that we didn't feel would be a good long-term fit for us.
Yeah, I feel like the snowball keeps going, because if you're working with great people, they're doing more deals, it's an automatic yes to you.
Yeah, and word also got out like, man, they turned down this investor. And we had great relationships. We were good friends. Like I would spend so many hours with that investor that we turned down to help them be successful, but they weren't a good fit for our management, right? And so we kept the relationships and nurtured our relationships and made sure they were taken care of. But word got out like Peak wouldn't work with us, And so we would have people come to us asking in the discovery call if their properties were something that we would want to manage.
I'm still thinking about that $400 a month gym membership. I feel like that's a massage and a smoothie after every workout right there. That's some boutique stuff.
Yeah, it was, that was one company I was running, and that was a personal training, but we would train anywhere from 10-year-olds, where we figured out the sales and how to get the dads to pay for that. And then we would also be training like NFL athletes and stuff like that in the same rooms. So we'd have guys on ESPN walking in training with us while they're up on ESPN talking about their new contract deals, and then a 10-year-old would walk in next to them and do similar training for their age level. And so it's just what we've always done was really operate at a high level and make sure you take care of other people first. And if you can do the same thing in property management, you don't have to sell out or do it cheap just because you're working in the investment world. You can maintain your reputation, your relationships, and provide a really high level of service and still offer competitive rates if you're priced right, and do very well.
It's interesting too, because such a common question, even at broker owner. We're going to get to that in a second. We're talking in May. Broker owner was, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm still drying off from the New Orleans sweat. But, one of the big topics there, or the classic questions is, what's your door count? What's your door count? Which is really not the best question. It's really like, what's the quality of your doors?
Right.
How many doors do you actually want? So even me asking, what's your door count? I need to get a different question there, because like for you could have 5,500, but you probably wouldn't have any hair, and you also wouldn't like any of your clients. So it's a really interesting kind of dynamic what y'all have built of like boutique, but still at scale, because 1,500 is no joke.
Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask to understand sort of what mindset that person has as far as like where they're at in their business and kind of what pressures or issues they are facing. But it tells you nothing about the health of their company or the status of their company. I know property management company owners that have 400, 500 units that are absolutely dominating and just like I lean on them for advice for certain things, but I also need to talk to the 2,000 unit company owners for advice on things that the 500 unit company owner hasn't quite experienced with the number of employees or something like that.
So one thing, speaking of advice, one thing that I really want to cover is leadership development, team growth, et cetera, because that's something you post about. You're obviously passionate about on LinkedIn. But before I get there, I want to talk about brand. All right. So for those who are listening on Spotify, you got the Peak shirt, you got the background wallpaper. I see some thank you notes behind you, maybe from somebody. Walk us through brand, because I'm guessing this may have come from your fitness days too. We see a lot of PM groups that look like they got branded by Microsoft Clip Art in 1998. Not you. Like y'all look like a software company that just happens to do property management. Walk us through the intentionality around your brand and how that coincides with the service. Because man, y'all got some slick stuff.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of it comes back to your reputation and how do you carry yourselves. Like the merchandise that we have for our team, like we have $200 rain jackets for our techs to go out in the rain that are fully branded. We have safety vests that are fully branded and high quality. We have this is just a t-shirt, but they're high quality t-shirts. We have all kinds of different jackets and sweaters and all hoodies and things like that, but they're all brand name, high quality stuff because that's our company. We don't want to be a cheaply known company. And so it's the same with the brand. When people see your brand, do they think it's a quality brand, or do they think, man, that's just pieced together? They don't really care about it. They don't hold themselves in high value. For me, a lot of it is, I can confidently say that none of it is ego. I don't really care. Like I care a lot more about having a good, happy team than how many units I have or how much money I make. I've never been driven by that. For me, it's really about the accomplishment. And I think in order to accomplish, I need to hold our team, hold our brand, hold our vision, hold our mission at a very high value, hold our culture at a very high value, and make sure those are top notch. And if those are top notch, everything else is going to follow. The money will come, the relationships, the reputation, all of that will follow.
Do you think the brand helps you? Obviously, I'm a recruitment hiring guy, not just with owners, but do you think it's helped you recruit top talent too?
100%. Yeah. I actually get calls from our competitors' employees and say they've been watching our growth and watching what we're doing and seeing that we're staying ahead of the industry trends. And, their competitor their employee might not be doing that. And it's funny because I have relationships in this area and really respect the other operators in this market. And I will meet with their employees and tell them how to add value to their team and stay on the team and give them a shot, because I'm not going to go just hire our competitors' employees left and right. So I've actually a number of times have met with competitors' employees and tried to help them be more successful in their current position. But yeah, it's definitely an attraction. When I have needed to hire, it's been a little bit easier because of that. I've been able to bring people in that actually would take a pay cut to join our team because they understand the vision and what our team is doing. And 10 times out of 10, it's paid off for them. and they now are making a lot more money than what they were making in their previous job.
Love it. Love it. And tell us too, just to pause real quick. I probably should have asked this at first, but tell us a little bit more about Richmond. Like, what's the population? What's the kind of feel from a PM rental? It seems like an awesome rental market, right? Like, it checks a lot of the boxes in regards to a kind of smaller metro in the South. But tell us more about Richmond, just to give some perspective to the listener.
Yeah, so maybe around a million in population, and when we say Richmond, it's a mid-sized city. So a lot of times we say Richmond, we're talking about Richmond surrounding counties as well. It is an excellent market to be in. We are absolutely. I'm very lucky. A lot of this whole like getting into this industry, learning this industry, now buying and investing in real estate. A lot of it is luck to find myself in this position. But to be in this market is luck. And so it's a great market, and you'll actually find a lot of great operators in Richmond. And some people will tell me, well, yeah, you're at 1,500 units. You grew fast because you're in Richmond. You're just in a good market. I would welcome them to come here and look at our competition. Look at the people, not even just the professional managers, but the self-managing landlords are dialed and squared away, and the meetup groups are phenomenal, and everyone is helping each other out. And so it really is a great market to be in. It's a highly competitive market, but there's a lot of opportunity here.
You're the first person I've ever heard describe a self-manager as dialed in. Why is that? That just because it's like a high educated market, like the quality of the rentals?
I think, and I can't speak too much for other markets, but what I see in Richmond is an incredible community that is willing to help others, an abundance mindset, meaning you'll get all of these investors to meet, and they honestly are good, genuine friends, and they will share information and help each other out through thick and thin, problems, issues, analysis, budgets, things like that. And then they'll go on vacation together, their families hang out. And I'm talking like hundreds of investors in many different networks do this for each other in this market. And I think it comes down to some OG investors that we have in this area that were mentors or role models for a lot of younger investors that always talked about there's plenty to go around. Just help each other, help other people. There's plenty to go around. And so a lot of younger / middle-age investors have adopted that mindset. And so everyone, I say everyone, it's not everyone, but the majority tend to think an abundance mindset, and they want to help each other out. And so it's really interesting. So again, with self-managing landlords, the professional self-managing landlords, meaning like the ones that do it for a career, not the ones that like have some W-2 or whatever, but the people that are fully bought in and doing this, and they have, 10, 15, they're really squared away. And I talk to a lot of them. I help a lot of them out, and I'm a resource for many of them because they have friends and they have family that don't want to self-manage. And so that's a big advantage we have. I'll pour a lot of effort and attention into the self-managing investor groups around town, build those relationships, offer as much value as I can to help them win. And then when their friends and family need to buy assets, they'll come to me.
One of the top topics at Broker Owner a couple months ago was acquisition. Oh, obviously AI. It's amazing. We're like 18 minutes in this convo and neither of us have brought up AI. So I feel like we need a cookie there. But let's talk about acquisitions first. Did you hear a lot of people talking, or have you heard people talking maybe the last, let's say 2 or 3 years, as some organic growth has slowed down? Are you hearing people talk more about acquiring those self-managed portfolios of like 5 to 15? Or are people still only thinking of, let's say, 100 to 400 doors when it comes to acquisitions?
I mean, it's got to be a certain size. At some point, you just say, I could go out and get the business if it's 15 units. Like, why would I pay for that unless it's really cheap? They just need to hire us, right? And so I've had that before where people are like, hey, I got 20 units, I'll sell to you. I'm like, just hire us. You're going to need to hire someone that like,
it's not worth the paperwork or the lawyers to deal with that.
And so but I think at some point, like 100 plus, it certainly gets more attractive. I do think people need to be aware that like we've never done an acquisition. I would be open to it for sure. That just hasn't been our strategy. It hasn't fell in my lap. I haven't been like hunting for it. I would definitely be open to it, especially with some of the operators in our market. But I think what people need to be aware and cautious about is that if they are not growing organically, they need to be very cautious about buying a company. Why would they pay money knowing that there's going to be some attrition naturally through that acquisition? And if they can't already grow the company, now they need to grow another company buy another company to grow. And so you're just going to trap yourself into a lot of debt in this big acquisition game. If you can't grow the company that you have, be very careful about acquiring other companies and expecting them to grow.
Yeah, good point. So good segue into the people element. People development, team development, leader development, whatever you want to call it, is obviously something you're excited about. And you don't really hear it talked about a lot. And I know I'm going through like the vortex of LinkedIn, but even at Broker Owner, I didn't see a lot of seminars about like developing your team and retention and recruitment. You seem pretty dialed in on that. Give us actually just kind of take the mic and walk me through just how you think about leader development and how you bring that mentality into property management, which a lot of people just like don't seem to think about.
Yeah. And I want to start by saying that like, I have a long way to go. I have a lot of stuff to learn. I'm not coming from like any pedestal of like being an outstanding leader or anything like that. If anything, the people that I have in my network show me how much further I have to go and how much more I need to learn as a leader. With that said, I do try to be the best leader I can. I study it. I try to practice it constantly. It is very important to me, different leadership skills and different leadership traits and being aware of that. Now, for me, it was critical. It was survival for me to build a good team. I didn't know anything about property management. And so how we got up to speed and operated so well, the only way we could do that was for me to share the vision with other professionals in our network to get them to join our team. And so I brought way more experience than me and way more knowledgeable people than me to our team to run the certain roles and responsibilities that I needed them to run. They knew way more than me. And so that was easy for me to let them operate and to give them, I think that the trick is to give them a sandbox to play in until you have a broader relationship. Then you can broaden the sandbox that they play in. But I would bring them in and let them operate because they knew more than me to start with. And I'm humble enough. I'm just because I'm CEO. My title certainly wasn't CEO with 2 employees, but just because I was whatever you want to call it, owner or president of the company, to me, that doesn't mean anything as far as what I know or what I'm capable of doing. My role throughout this entire thing was to build a strong team that could do way more than I could do, that could have way more experience and knowledge, bring that to the table way more than I could. And so we've compounded so many decades of experience in property management based off the people that I hired, and then I empower them and allow them to operate. Now, we've had issues where like, someone hits a button and it costs us $7,000. Someone makes a communication mistake or this or that. The idea is like, I will ultimately always own that as a leader. I'll take ownership. We either didn't have the right process in place. We didn't have the right systems to mitigate those risks. And that's on me. And we just smile about it and we keep learning and we keep moving. And so I remember the first time someone made a really bad mistake. And it wasn't malicious. That's different. It wasn't malicious or anything like that. It just made a bad mistake. And people in the team came up to me and said, man, are you going to take that out of their pay? How are you going to like hold them accountable for this? And I said, I'm going to talk to them and see what went wrong and see what the company needs to do better to support them, provide the right tools and resources so that they could be more successful, because I know they didn't mean to do it. And they're great. They have so much experience and knowledge and they're a great fit for our team. And so let's just figure that out. But this is just tuition that we paid. It's a cost of doing business and learning how to get better. Dock their pay or really punish them for this mistake. They're never going to make decisions again. And if they don't make decisions, I can't scale and operate as a company. I can't build leaders. I need leaders to be confident in making decisions, and I will give them the sandbox to play in to make those decisions, however much I'm comfortable if they fail making those decisions. And so now we have a good tier of management within the team because my culture, my decisions no longer really ripple effect no longer hits the outskirts of our team with 45, 47 people. And so you need the next layer of management to be able to make those decisions, have the confidence, have the culture to carry that ripple through the end of the team. And that's what we built today.
What does that next level of leadership look like under you, but really with you? Like if y'all have like a weekly leadership meeting, who's sitting at that table? What roles are they?
Yeah, typically I'm really bad with titles. I'm not very corporate, if you couldn't tell. I have no corporate background. So that was actually a learning lesson as we scaled, is I would give people really high titles and be like, oh, wait, we gotta dial back. But I would say more of like a director level. So we have an L10, we're on EOS. We have a cool director, an L10 meeting every week. It's typically what you would call directors. And so the director of maintenance, sort of the regionals, which could be directors of multifamily and single family, the director of our accounting team, and then sales, and I'm probably missing one, but yeah, just the department heads, essentially. They directly report to me, and then they go off and manage their teams and do their thing.
Gotcha. And then when you're hiring folks at your size now, are you still looking for, like, Are you still looking for people who have single family, multifamily property management experience? Or are you hiring people outside the game?
So I always hire culture fit first, regardless of experience. It's got to be a culture fit first. Anything else is going to be a complete disaster. No matter how impatient or how urgently you need to hire, I wouldn't do it. So always has to be a culture fit first. But I only do the hiring of like the director level, like an L10 level would be my hire. And in that situation, they would need some level of experience to come in and manage a single family or a multifamily team. I would want them to have some level of experience. I wouldn't say I fully require it, but I would really appreciate it if they had it so they could lead the team right from the start. Anything less than that, no experience required. We've hired excellent, awesome people with years of tenure on our team that hardly knew what property management was before they joined the team. They were just in my network and they knew they wanted to come on Peak. They heard we were doing something special and they came and joined the team. We can teach property management. We just need the good people with the right mindset to join our team.
I had a friend ask me, we were talking about recruiting, exactly how business was. I told him I'm doing a lot of work in property management. He's a smart guy. He's a business guy. He's bought, 2 or 3 houses in his life. He had no clue the multi-billion-dollar industry that property management was. And I told him, I was like, it's basically like Narnia. It's like this other world you enter into. It's awesome. I mean, I've been spoiled. I work with some really great operators, but like you enter this world and you wonder why there's not more people clamoring to get in it. And I think we actually have seen that more with a lot more vendors. I mean, I'll put myself in the mix in some form of fashion, but it's amazing when people enter this industry, they kind of see it. And I'm not even talking about multifamily. I'm talking about just single family. It's a pretty cool thing that's going right now, almost like a golden age of sorts. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I've been pleasantly surprised. And I'm sure some of these newer hires have been too.
Yeah, I would say single family is definitely from a profitability standpoint where it's at. Multifamily is good for like revenue and volume to help you scale single family. That's sort of how I see it. But I don't know how long that's going to last. Meaning, like, I don't know how long this industry is going to be incredibly awesome to rush to and be in. I think there's some big changes on the horizon. And I think operators that are in the game now need to be very cautious and aware of what that looks like. And there is a huge influx in our market. My BDM was telling me the other day that when he's talking to prospects, they're bringing up companies he's never even heard of before, and it's happening over and over and over again. And so there's so much competition out there from realtors. The market's slowing down and realtors wanting to get in the property management game. Other people who are tech savvy are just like, hey, I could build that. I'm going to get in the game. There's going to be a lot of people coming in the game, and I think it's going to change how we do things. And I think it's very important in regardless of the industry that you're in, you need to be able to adapt. And I think that's one thing that our team has always been focused on is we haven't known any better. We haven't known the last 20 years of how to do it. And so one kind of blessing that we have is that we don't know the standard way of doing it. So we just do what we feel is best, and we're ready to change if we need to change.
Yeah, so you just touched on what is changing, right? You're not the first guest to mention a lot of the tech stack where I think Matt, even in his weekly newsletter with propertymanagers.com, mentioned, we're maybe in the ballpark now or about to enter the ballpark of one person managing 50 properties by themselves, right? And I'm broad strokes here of trying to summarize that article, but you just mentioned a bit about what is changing, but you said something interesting about your team changing to respond to the change. What are some things that you're working on right now? Let's say the next 8 months towards the end of the year. What are you working on now to help position yourself for a strong 2027?
Yeah, we actually are becoming more intentional. I'm not a very analytical person. I believe that, and again, I'm not driven by the money. I want the accomplishment. I want the team to be happy. I want everyone to be successful and have opportunity. I looked at the business as long as we were hitting a high profitability mark, meaning a certain profitability mark that I was happy with, that was healthy, I'm okay. Let's hire people. Let's invest in the company. Let's do this. Let's do that. Now with the technology coming into place, I feel like a lot of the fees that we are able to charge are going to get driven down with everyone coming in the industry and the low overhead that they might have using technology. So they're going to be able to offer property management to their clients for free. And they might be able to make money in other ways, right? And so now in over the next 6 months, I'm really focused on leaning out our operations, meaning like really getting into it, getting into the weeds and making sure that we are operating at the highest level we can, making sure our marketing is dialed in and that we are ready and at the strongest point possible to make whatever move we have to make to continue to push forward at a positive pace like we're seeing now.
Like that. So really stress the profitability, not just a door count. I've yet to hear you mention, hey, by the end of 2027, we want to be at this amount of doors. And I'm guessing that's very intentional because I don't know if that's in your L10 goals or, sorry, I forget the EOS term, but like the big rocks, but I'm guessing a door count is not on your radar, but you're focused more on the granular right now, right?
So it's interesting you mentioned that. When I talk to the team about the goals that we have, I will mention a door count and it's a large door count, but I say that's not the goal. That's what happens if we follow our culture and core values and provide an elevated experience. And so recently we have changed all of our processes to experiences. We want our team to think about the experience, not the process of clicking a button, but the experience of what it feels like to go through it. Whether you're a tenant, a client, a vendor. And so we have a move out experience, a move in experience, an onboarding experience, et cetera, turnover experience. And so if we provide the right experience, I use the unit count to show the team what could happen, what that looks like. But the unit count is never the goal for me. We need a healthy, happy company. Unit count is not the goal.
Internally, are you telling me that you've literally changed the semantics where people don't say move out process, don't say inspection process, they say experience instead?
Correct.
I like that. Talk about some intentionality, man.
Yeah, we've rebranded like our internal, like the system we use to automate our processes. Straight up, they don't say move out process anymore. They say move out experience. And then we've have it in different areas throughout our team, our office, et cetera.
Rebranded internal processes. That's a nugget right there. That's a little YouTube short right there.
Yeah,
I like it.
You have a lot of people that just, everyone who runs a company knows, especially in this day and age where they have the process automation software, people are just clicking buttons. They're not focused on the outcomes and the impact. And so then they don't make right decisions, especially the maintenance coordinator is a great position for that. Right? They're just clicking buttons and trying to close out work orders. They may not be thinking about the right judgment call or the right experience that owner is going to have, the tenant is going to have, et cetera. They just want to close out the work order. I mean, they got 300 other work orders to get to, right? And so if you start branding and you don't just change the typing internally, you have to talk about it constantly. And for the course of a year or two, you talk about it constantly. You put signs up in the office. You change your process automation software to talk about it and say it. And so people start to change their mindset and start to think about the experience that people are having versus the button that they need to click next in the process.
That's some good stuff right there. That makes my mind's racing by my own internal processes and the language that I use and maybe making a few adjustments there because semantics are everything. All right. So let's say it's 2 a.m. You wake up, maybe a cold sweat in the Virginia heat. And what is keeping you up from an excitement standpoint about property management where you're like, man, I'm just jacked to get to work tomorrow? And then also what's maybe on some nights keeping you up from a concern standpoint of, what's coming? So you're not sleeping regardless. Yeah, what's that?
They're both the same answer.
Hit me.
AI. I mean, I hate to it's on every single podcast and every talk everyone talks about, but AI both really excites me about its capabilities and what it might bring to the industry. And it also terrifies me. And so there's a lot to be concerned about, but there's also a lot to be excited about. And so I think I am not one to worry. I'm one to kind of cautiously consider and talk to other people and try to learn from other people and kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening. And then make small decisions quickly, not just go turn over your whole company and change things, turn things upside down, but make small decisions really quickly so that you can orient yourself. And if it's a bad decision, you can quickly step back. And an example that I did not create this, but an example that I've heard is when you type in an address into your GPS when you're parked in your car, it will spin around until you drive 5 feet forward and it orients itself. So you don't know where to go unless you make that small decision. So you have to keep making small decisions and go somewhere and you learn, you get feedback of whether that was a good decision or a bad decision. But when you stop making decisions or when you make a massive decision, you just drive, 100 miles in a direction before you look down at your GPS for it to orient. you're going to make some big mistakes. And so I think AI both keeps me up at night, but also excites me about the industry. And how I'm approaching it as someone who certainly is not very technical is I am going to keep my finger on the pulse. I'm going to rely on my network, create whatever relationships I need to create to be successful, and make a lot of small decisions as we go.
Are there certain members of your team that are waving the flag on AI and like really running with it? And that's not in any way like a criticism of someone who's not, but from like an adoption standpoint, is a lot of the AI interest coming from you? Is it coming from the leadership team? Is it coming from more of the front staff? Like, who's it coming from?
I would say definitely leadership. I think all of the staff appreciate using it on like the basic level, like Chat GPT, right? And I think the leadership is really excited about what it could become. But I think it's also a threat to many people, to many employees. And so that's part of the culture is like, I'm not going to be dishonest to my team, but the idea is maybe we're not going to have to hire as many people in the future, right? And so hopefully it empowers us instead of replaces us. But maybe we're not making as many hires in the future because of these resources that we have. And so I'm openly talking about it with my team. I think a lot of the excitement comes from our leadership, but I think it has to be me that's driving it because ultimately I'm the owner of the company, and I think it could be perceived as a threat to some of the people, on the payroll.
Yeah. I mean, you set the tone, right? Not just the vision, but the tone. We're going to start landing the plane here a bit. It's one of our favorite questions to ask, especially you really having a career before property management, but obviously, grinding away the last decade or so. How has being in property management specifically changed you as a person?
Well, I think it's definitely opened me up to like the realities of life that I wouldn't normally get exposed to. What you see happening out there in the world in people's lives that you've never had to deal with. It's never happened in your life. I think that has definitely exposed me. But what has really changed me is weeding through problems and getting to a solution, knowing when I have to spend. I think before property management, I would spend a lot of time with anyone who wants it to listen to all their problems and help them find a solution. And in property management, I think I've become really effective at weeding out excuses versus what's real, and then being able to come to a solution very quickly. And I think some of that is on a growing team side of thing and having employees. Some of that is I have a growing family. Some of that is the growing tenant base that we manage and the growing client base that we manage. But just working with more and more people, I think I'm much more to the point and just straightforward to a solution versus let's spend a few days to think about it and try to unwind this whole thing. Let's figure out why it happened. Let's solve it. And let's keep moving. We're not going to spend time on anything else. Like as long as everyone's taken care of, and if we need to own it, fine. But I'm going to move straight to that solution and just keep rolling.
That makes a lot of sense. You have limited bandwidth right now. CEO of a 1,500 door company, family man. You got to get your lift in every day. I mean, you're obviously still exercising, man, looking good. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Some of that's just life. I mean, I feel like I'm in a similar stage. I got 3 kids under 4.5. I'm trying to build a business. Trying to get my lift in too. And you just don't have time. Like you're not being a jerk, but you're just like, you're moving faster. And also like your machete's sharper. Like you could just make decisions faster because you've made that decision 17 times before.
I think in the past, probably a good way to summarize it is in the past, it mattered so much to me that everyone that I interacted with was thrilled to be in a relationship with me. And I cared about that more than my own happiness. And I think how property management has changed me as a person is I now very much value my own happiness and the happiness of my family. And so I've learned when to cut through things to get to a solution faster so that I can remain happy. My team can remain happy. And I know and understand now, and I've reconciled with not being able to make everyone happy, where that crushed me in the beginning. That's all I ever wanted in every background that I worked for. I still very much care about people, but I think how it's changed me as a person is I definitely have grown in that capacity that, hey, if I don't worry as much about making happy the people I will never make happy, and I just have to accept that that's going to happen from time to time, then I can have a positive impact on thousands of other people. But I will not have a positive impact on thousands of other people if the 2 or 3 that I can't make happy wear me out and cause me to quit.
That's a whole episode right there, man. What a great word. Well, we're appreciative of the time, man. We know you have a lot going on and just really appreciate you taking a minute. We're going to do some quick rapid fire here, kind of a tradition here. So first question, what's your favorite tool or app for your business right now? It doesn't have to be specific to PM, but what's one of the favorite things that has your attention right now?
Man, I'm not going to say anything special here. Like I don't do anything special that anyone else isn't doing. I'm probably far less technical than most. I use Google Calendar constantly. That is the app that I live in. My life is run by Google Calendar. But I would say the tool, and I mean this in a respectful way, the tool that I like the most and that I'm most proud of and that I use every day is my team. I have such a strong team with such a strong culture that operates at such a high level and cares about the company that I'm just so thankful for them and what they are doing every day in this company.
Love that. Man, sorry, quick thing on the Google Calendar. My wife, she knows that's my love language is when she sends me a calendar invite.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm like, oh,
my
babe,
wife is, yeah.
At first she's like, I'm not sending you a calendar invite. And now she's like, oh, if I don't send you a calendar invite, you're not going to do it. I'm like, yeah,
100%.
babe, it's just love. It's just love. All right, man. I feel like you're going to have like 3 responses or 300. So I'm going to give you some wiggle room on this one. All right. Typically, we ask for one book or podcast that every property management leader should check out. I want to get a little loose with you. So 2 to 3 books or podcasts that you think people should be reading, and feel free to mention Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Yeah, it's definitely that's got to be a top one. I know it's cliche.
I heard you referencing it earlier, even if you weren't referencing it.
Yeah. Coming from me, that's cliche. I mean, it matches my background, my personality. I was training in that environment before I knew who Jocko Willink was. And then once I heard what he was putting out and saw that book and listened to his podcast, I was like, it was like the gods are speaking to me. Like this is my language and this is what I know and understand. And so absolutely, I got to shout out Jocko Willink, his podcast, his books, his leadership books, like Extreme Ownership for sure is mandatory reading for our company. And then also for leaders in the industry, Who Not How. And I know you're very familiar with that book and you have gifted it to many people, but Who Not How is a great book to really value your time and value yourself as a leader, and you're benefiting your teammates. The more that you're willing to scale and give them tools and resources, you are benefiting them if you read this book and follow those principles.
Love that. Have you read any other Dan Sullivan's, Ben Hardy's other stuff, Gap in the Gain, and then 10X over 2X?
I think there was one. Was there one of them like buy back your time or something like that?
Oh, that's Dan Martell. That's some good stuff.
So that was a good one too.
I mean, I feel like you're kind of past that as you've like scaled and delegated, but it's more about like hiring like your first like virtual assistant, things like that. Still good, but not to say you're past that, but I think you're kind of past that.
Yep.
All right. Last question here. What's one word to describe the future of property management?
I'm torn between exciting and challenging, but I think I'm an optimist. I'm going to go with exciting. I think it's going to be an incredible future for those that can figure it out and keep riding the wave. I think it's a great industry to be in. I would say exciting.
Love it. Heard someone say once that optimists sometimes win, but pessimists always lose.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is kind of pessimistic statement, but we can get into that later. Well, man, last question, because I don't ask this to everybody, but you have a great podcast already. So do you mind mentioning that real quick, where people can find it, and then we'll sign off? Yeah,
so the Virginia Investor Podcast. It's Spotify, Apple Podcast. We are on all kinds of socials at VA Investor Pod. You can find us there. You can find Peak Property Management at Join Peak PM on different socials or joinpeakpm.com. They're all linked together. So if you find me somewhere, find me on LinkedIn, you'll find everything else. And it'd be great to connect if you're interested.
Yeah. And quick plug there, like, our podcast, Loman's, like we're all talking like property management owners, but what you've done, what Mark Ainley's done, what Everness has done, and Everness a little different because I know they've gone national with some of their stuff, but those hyper local podcast leaders, investors, like, man, like if you're in a market that doesn't have someone doing that, why don't you be the person that does it? Well done, you and Mark. I know y'all are probably buddies, but man, what y'all are doing, like it gets my attention. And I'm not even in Richmond or Chicago, but I kind of know the market just from listening to a few episodes.
Yeah, and all credit goes to Mark. I've learned so much from Mark Ainley in Chicago. It's a straight up Chicago investor podcast. Incredible role model in that marketing world as well.
Well, if you and Mark start a fitness podcast, I'm definitely going to listen because I've definitely transitioned to more strength training and counting my steps now that I'm like almost 40. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing to self-depreciating humor. I'm reading my first John Grisham novel in about 25 years. I saw them on my dad's bookcase forever. And now I'm like, man, I'm officially 40. I'm like reading John Grisham novels. What's happened to my life?
Yeah, got the dad shoes and everything else.
I got the dad shoes. So anyway, all right, man, we're going to do an aging pod later with me, you, and Mark. It's going to be great.
Sounds good.
Steven, thanks so much. Awesome time, man. We could have talked for an hour on any of those topics, but really appreciate you, what you're doing for the industry, and all the best in Richmond.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's a great time. We'll see you.